Hello, everyone. A very good morning to our viewers joining us live today from United States. A very good afternoon to our friends in Europe, and good evening to our friends in Asia and Asia Pacific region. So this is a new um, this is a new initiative by IEEE Microwave Theory and Technique Society. We are calling them as live public lectures, where we are bringing in different field experts, different established professionals to talk to the audience and convey the advanced scientific engineering technology innovations in a more simple way. And we had our first lecture with the astronaut Robert Thirsk, which was very well received. So now today we have another special guest because today our guest is the one who enables those technologies so that astronauts can actually go into space. So Gautam, thank you so much for joining us today. A very good morning to you.
Thank you, Tushar, and thank you, Aisha.
So before we start our session for today, I would like to let our viewers know that this event is being live broadcasted on our Facebook page, IEEE Microwave Theory and Technique Society page, on different pages of different regions within IEEE, and also I think India page in India. And if you have any questions, please feel free to have your question posted in the chat box, Q&A chat box, which you see on the bottom right hand side of your chat window. So to start with, I think I mean, Gautam has been a very inspiring mentor, senior. We look forward to. I have been meeting him in various conferences, and he has been always encouraging. So I would like to take some opportunity and time to introduce him. So Gautam grew up in the outskirts of Kolkata in India. Did his undergrad studies at the Bengal Engineering College and master's at the University of Virginia and PhD at California Institute of Technology, Caltech. He's currently a senior scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and also a visiting professor at Caltech. He's also BEL professor at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and an adjunct professor at IIT Kharagpur. He developed instruments for space exploration encompassing the areas of astrophysics, planetary science, and earth sciences. He has published more than 350 journal and conference proceeding papers, and I have been reading some of them. They are hard to understand because there's so much technical depth you have. So when you start as a student, you really have to push yourself. And also has more than 15 patents. He has received more than 35 NASA Technical Achievement and New Technology Innovation Awards. He's a fellow of IEEE, IETE, and IEEE Distinguished Lecturer. So Gautam, once again, thank you so much. And it has always been a pleasure listening to your talks, reading your papers, and meeting you in conferences. As a young professional, I always admire your energy level and commitment in promoting science and promoting engineering. So maybe I would like to take you to a flashback and take you to your young days. Tell us about your journey, which you started from India as a kid, and what inspired you on this scientific path.
Thank you, Tushar, again, and thank you, Aisha. Before I start, I want to actually acknowledge the two individuals who are organizing this, Tushar and Aisha. They are my heroes. You guys are so enthusiastic and, in the spirit of volunteerism that it is amazing. So I look up to you, and that's what makes me hopeful. Again, if anyone who are listening into that, this event is organized by IEEE MTT Society. So if you are not a member of IEEE, become a member and become an MTT Society member, mtt.org. Then there are a lot of advantages to that. So now, having said that, let's talk about my journey from Novogram to NASA. So as Tushar mentioned, I grew up in a small village outskirts of Kolkata. It's called Novogram. And we are six brothers and sisters. And we, like many of you who are attending this, we also had a very poor background. We did not, we lived in a one-bedroom house. It was, 14 feet by 12 feet room. That's where we grew up. And so sometimes we did not get 2 full meals a day. But one thing I always tell people that it does not take much to dream. One should always dream big. Sometimes when you are hungry, you cannot fall asleep. So it used to happen to us, and lying on the bed and looking in the roof, asbestos roof, I used to think big. I used to think about going to NASA and going to Caltech. So and our just immediate past director of JPL, he used to say one thing is called dare mighty things. So I used to dare mighty things because I used to think that I am working with all these great people, and for that one has to work hard as well. So I for my parents, they always told one thing, that for people like us and people who are listening in, there are many people, students out there who face the same kind of situation, same kind of conditions, that not enough infrastructure, not enough facilities. But to them, I always say, dream big and work hard for it. And there will be obstacles on your way, but you'll be able to overcome. You'll be able to reach where you want to reach. So I always believed in that. And another thing is, I now work in organization. Yeah, the motto of that organization is failure is not an option. If you have watched the movie, Apollo 13, there is one sentence that always, I still get goosebumps whenever I hear that. That is, failure is not an option. And if you think about it, what is going on around the world right now, all these, peaceful marches that is going on in United States as well as in other countries, there also we'll have to know that failure is not an option. Failure of not addressing this inequality and injustice around the world, it is not an option anymore. We'll have to come together as a human being, all of us, and address those issues. So from there, so that's how, dreaming big, I moved from Navagram to NASA.
So, Gautam, that's very interesting because I mean, a lot of young people joining us live today from different parts of the world. Many of us have this different aspiration as we are growing up, but sometimes there are so many hard challenges because you need right mentorship in life. So, when you were a high school student, were you clear, or did you have this plan that yeah, I want to go and work for NASA in future? Like when any child is growing up, they admire to be an astronaut because I mean you have been watching movies, you have been watching all these, reading all these fancy articles. So when did you started having that motivation of joining NASA, and were you a high school student then, and how you carved your path? Because you did your BE, then you did your masters. So tell us about the steps which helped you to reach there.
Yes, it's very true. Actually, when as an undergraduate student and even as a high school student, you have a lot of dreams, but we don't really know the path that how to get there, right? That there is no manual really to to guide you through that. So one has to do is you have to read about it. At the time when I grew up, there was no internet, so only way to read about and learn about things is through newspapers and stuffs like that. So, but I had this dream and I wanted to go there, not as an astronaut. I never really wanted to become an astronaut. For NASA, for me, was about science, because for space is such an important and exciting area, because we look up in the sky and we see all these stars, billions of stars. And I tell people, that in our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, we have about 100 billion stars, and there are about 100 billion galaxies in our universe. So if you do your math, you'll realize that how many stars are there in this universe, and how are they formed, where do they come from, what is the history behind that. So it is to excite me a lot, about space. And that way, after my undergraduate, I joined an institute in India called TIFR, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. This is one of the most amazing place there, and I met amazing people there, who they're very smart, and that opened my eyes. That gave me the necessary skills and some of that pathways, that how I can fulfill my dream. So that's where things started forming more in a concrete way.
And I mean, I think the same happened to me because when I got selected for visiting summer research program, which TIFR runs, that's where my vision was like, oh my God, like there's so much to science and so much to engineering, and you meet experts from all the parts, different parts of the world. So that's very interesting. So also, Gautam, like, tell us about like how was, where did you drive inspiration? Because sometimes, sometimes being born and raised in an Indian India, I have heard like we have seen that India is a very competitive country, and parents want their children to go and pursue engineering and be the best. So, who was your motivation? I read somewhere in your article about a quote which your mother told you. So, tell us something about that. That because that can drive
Yes.
you, right?
So in a way, that one of the reason that I actually go around the world now and talk to people, talk to students, is to trying to show them some kind of, at least in my small way, that what is possible. We did not have that kind of opportunities, unfortunately, because where I was growing up, I didn't have the opportunity to meet people who will be able to motivate. But in a way, our school was not a great school. It did not have any facilities almost, but there are some teachers who used to really motivate us. One science teacher I had, he used to talk about all these big scientists, Niels Bohr, what he used to do, and Rutherford and all those people. So, and then that's how the motivation came. But in a way, many of us will have to get self-motivated, because when you do not see a real role model in front of you, you do not get to meet someone, like APJ Kalam and someone like him. So then self-motivation is the driver in such cases.
Correct. Correct. So, also tell us, like, when you were applying for your master's program at Virginia Tech, how did you choose? How did you end up being at Virginia Tech? What did you plan, and what was the process for that during
Yeah,
that?
so basically, again, as I said, that there is no internet, so there was not much information. You have to, I know many of you who are listening to that, you cannot even believe a world. How can a world exist without internet? But it did existed before, and then that was, you have to write letters. So that's how I actually contacted some people, and they were very much interested. And I got a reply from University of Virginia. My PhD, master's thesis advisor, Dr. Professor Bobby Weichel. He wrote to me and he showed a lot of interest. So that's how I actually landed up at Virginia. And then from there, I had always a dream about Caltech, as I said, because I read about Feynman lecture series, and all this stuff. So I applied to Caltech. As I said, I dared mighty things, and I just said, why not? I got to lose. And I applied and I got lucky. I got admission to Caltech. I came here, and that changed my life in many ways, many respects.
Correct. So when you were studying at Caltech and doing your PhD, tell us something about your PhD days. Like how because Caltech is a very competitive place, one of the best schools in the world. Tell us about some of the stories as a PhD student. Like what helped you to be more productive in your research, and how you kept progressing in your academic life, publishing papers. So and your supervisor. So tell us something about your PhD journey.
So at PhD, as I said, I came to Caltech. I came to do my PhD in electrical engineering. But Caltech is amazing place. What they do is that you can have your advisor from any other department. It need not be from electrical engineering. So my advisor was in the physics department. So his name is Professor Jonas Mudzianas, and of course he's one of the smartest men I have ever met. And I used to sit in the physics building, and there every winter, Stephen Hawking used to come to spend his time at Caltech. And he used to sit two doors from my office. And of course, I used to see him, I used to talk to him, and all these Caltech physics professors like, John Prescott and then the people who got Nobel Prize recently,
Yeah.
they used to come and talk to Stephen Hawking. So that way I got exposed to people who are, physicists, big name physicists. And in a way that what I work on at NASA, we build instruments, right? However, the way NASA works is very different. So everything is science driven. We'll have to actually, there has to be a science. We are trying to answer some big science questions. And then what kind of measurement that we need to do to answer that science question. And then what kind of instruments we need to build to, do that measurement. So that is the path for NASA. And, at Caltech, those environment, in the physics environment, that helped really me in, formulating what I want to do and where I want to go.
Correct. So, space, I guess, is like a confluence of many fields. You can be a computer scientist, you can be an electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, civil engineer. You work with people from physics, chemistry, biology. So, a lot of questions which often comes to us is that, I'm studying XYZ branch. Can I work for NASA, or can I work for European Space Agency, or can I work for Indian Space Agency? So tell us about the multidisciplinary nature of the field you work in.
Yes, so this is very important because always, when I give lectures to students, particularly, schools, kids, one of the questions they ask me is how to become a rocket scientist, because people always think about people who are working in space is they're rocket scientists. So I tell them, of course, you need the basic STEM subjects, right? That's math, science, people work on, but you need a lot of other skills. So this is a big 10. Space, NASA, ESA, ISRO, these are big tens. We need people from all walks of life. We need people who are art, who are very good in art. We need people who are good writers, and for us as well. So at the end of the day, if you are doing research, if you are doing science, you are building instrument, then you'll have to explain that. You'll have to explain to people. You'll have to be a good speaker, right? You'll have to have all different disciplines are come together to make it happen. It is not an individual one stream area, because we need people from all walks of life. So that's why I tell people that whatever you're working on, you can join NASA. It doesn't matter. Only one requirement, you have to be good at it.
Mhm. Very correct. Because, for an example, I mean, I don't come from an English-speaking country. When I wrote my first transaction paper, I was almost crying after like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Just, how to write it right is also an art. So, so basically, personally, I have seen that it's just not about, technical skills are your core, but apart from that, you have to excel in different interpersonal skills and eventually evolve over time. So with this, so when you were graduating, of course, when you graduate from Caltech, you have offers for very high paying jobs. You can go to Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley culture has always been very attractive. So what was your motivation going from Caltech, having a degree in hand with companies standing on your door, and leaving that and going to a path which is full of, technical challenges, and, of course, what was your motivation of after PhD to join JPL and work for them?
So, how did it happen is that, of course, as I said, I always wanted to go to NASA, but I actually did not apply. I was writing up my thesis and then thinking, okay, as I was writing that, okay, I'll have to do something. And then one day I got a call from Peter Siegel. He was my boss at JPL when I joined in. So he said, okay, I read about your papers and all. So do you want to come over for, give a talk to our group? So, and I went over there, gave a talk, and met some people, and then I was made an offer to join in. And to be honest, that salary was much less than what I already had been contacted by few companies, much less, less than 50%. I did not hesitate for a second, because I don't know about others, but for me, there you need some, of course, some money you need in your life. But I have gone through in my experience in life has been that, whatever I get is much better than what I had before. So I did not hesitate for a second. I accepted that, and from there I started working in NASA, and then that has been the best. Even today, I sometimes don't, feel that, oh, I'm here, the journey that I had. So it's kind of, is that I'm still dreaming those dreams that I used to. So that's kind of feeling I have sometimes.
Great, great. So now, tell us, like we have talked about your personal trajectory, how you reached NASA. So now tell us something about the kind of work you do in NASA. Like what are the technical areas you are working on, and what is the importance and relevance of those engineering innovations which you are doing at JPL in the context of modern science and physics and experiments?
Yeah, so this is very important because that we develop technologies, and sometimes we think that, oh, I have a very cool technology, oh, this is great. But for NASA perspective, you can have the best technology in the world, but if you are not doing some scientific research out with that, then there is not much value. So whatever we do, as I said, is science driven. So we are trying to answer some big science question. I'll give an example because I'm working on some instrumentation development that has relevance to that. That one of the things that scientists believe that when the comets brought water to Earth. So that is one of the science, question. But if I tell you that okay, yes, comets brought water to Earth, you are going to say, okay, how do you prove that, right? So what is the way to prove that question? One of the thing is that if you look around, the water that we drink every day is H216O, the 16th oxygen isotope. But there are other kinds of water. We have water H217O, H218O, HDO, that on deuterium. And if you actually take a ratio of the abundances of different kinds of water on planet Earth, you will find that those ratios matches with some of the comets, like it's called Jupiter family comets, with that. So then question becomes, okay, if we can go to some comets and do that measurement and see that the ratios are very similar, then we can actually more or less say, yes, this is the source, because the ratio will be same if the source is the same. So to do that, how do you go about that? How do you then build an instrument to answer that question? I work in the area of terahertz. It's very high frequency.
Can you explain just terahertz to the people,
Yes,
audience? What is terahertz?
that's right. If you terahertz is actually 10 to the power 12, 10, the gigahertz is 10 to the power 9 hertz, right? So terahertz 10 to the 12, hertz. That is 1 terahertz. And why it is important? Because it goes back to the beginning of the universe. If you look in the sky, you see the stars. That is the optical, right? The frequencies that you are receiving are optical because our eyes see in the optical domain. However, actually, the universe is brightest in the terahertz frequencies. Actually, it peaks at 3 terahertz because all these galaxies, all these stars, they're radiating at all different frequencies. However, through the interstellar medium, there are some dusts. These dusts absorbs and then they re-radiate, and then they preferentially radiate in this frequency band. And that's why if you want to know how stars are formed, how this universe came about, you'll have to look in the terahertz frequency band. Even now, if you look at how new stars are born, how new galaxies are formed, so in this frequency band. So that's why it's very, very important area of research. And I work in that area. And I was just telling you that instrument that I'm working on, I'm building a very small, high resolution spectrometer. It's that can fit in a very small platform like a CubeSat or a small sat, and that can go to, yes, so basically shoebox size satellite. So that can go to a comet and trying to measure that water ratios and tell you that, oh yes, to answer that that's one of the area. So I'm working on multiple instrument developments in astrophysics as well, and as well as going instrumentation for Mars, to measure the wind on Mars, and developing some instrumentation for that because we do not have good knowledge on the wind on Mars, because as the rover or lander, they go through the atmosphere, and Mars has a lot of high winds sometimes, wind gusts, but we don't know. So if you suppose think about it, our Mars 2020 that will be launched soon, that if the wind gust comes and it takes it to somewhere else and it goes belly up, then that's it. Our expensive instrument gone down the drain. So we need to know those things. So yeah, I am working on some of this instrumentation development as well.
So to for our viewers, just to give a context of terahertz, the current our wireless communications which we were having, they are like 2.6, 3.5 gigahertz. So Gautam is working on something which is 500 times higher than those frequency which we use right now. So it's a very niche area, and you need a lot of expertise. So Gautam, when you are building these instruments, right? What type of discipline people you need for them, because you might be very good antenna engineer, I might be some amplifier designer. So what are different disciplines which come together to build some kind of a platform? uh,
As I said, that's one of the things that I will have to really interact with scientists, that, science chemists who actually know about the chemistry of this, physicists and everyone. That is the science aspect of it. But in terms of other disciplines, we need all kinds of engineers. So microwave engineers are very much needed because of our instruments and microwave and terahertz. We need mechanical engineers like Aisha. Aisha is trained in mechanical engineering because we have to make it. I remember that when I first did my drawing, mechanical drawing, and gave it to the workshop, the person was laughing at me because I knew how to draw things, engineering drawing, many of us have done, but what is possible? What are the tolerances? Those aspects of it you really need to know about. So you'll have to have a broader understanding. We focus sometimes too much on depth. Yes, you need the depth of a subject. That's how become a subject matter expert. But at the same time, if you are trying to build some instrumentation, if you are leading a team to develop something, you'll have to understand multiple areas. I need to understand the science aspect of it, because then what are the things, what are the error bar that my instrument can provide so that the measurement can be done? So that I need to understand. I need to understand the mechanical aspect of it. I need to understand all different aspects. Thermal engineering is such a big issue. So we need to have people who are of all this is a multidisciplinary. This is not a single. You need teamwork. One of the things I keep telling people, that teamwork is one of the most important aspect of it. So form a team. You cannot do everything by yourself.
Correct, correct, correct. So Gautam, with the technical work you are doing, and tell us, like, of course, every day and every project you are starting, unlike many other research areas where already a lot of research has been done, you are the first ones in the entire world to demonstrate what you are doing at JPL. So tell us about, like, how challenging is it, especially in your mindset, like attitude building. When you have a problem, what should be the right attitude to approach that problem? And that can be even, in personal lives, because it's just about the attitude within you which takes you far. So tell us about how difficult those challenges are, and some stories where, you tried, maybe you failed, maybe you succeeded, many a times it happens. So tell us some stories about in your technical domain when you are trying something which hasn't been done before. What is that, cycle?
Yes. So basically, if you're in the research world or technology development world, and that is failure is part of life. So what you hear when you read a paper, that paper is about success story, most of it, right? 99.9% is success story. What you don't hear is the failures that we have. And every day we fail in some form or the other. And that is part of life, that we want to do something and it does not work. So don't despair. My attitude has been that, okay, this is part of life, but as long as we can learn from this failure. So you'll have to really analyze in your mind what went wrong. At JPL, at NASA, we have something called lessons learned. So there is always, whether it's successful or, a failure, we always go back and see what are the lessons that we have learned from this. This is actually very true for every aspect of life, not only for NASA or not only for space industry, for every industry. They will have to realize what are the lessons that we have learned from this. So failure will happen, but innovation is one of the things. You cannot really, as you know, one of the word in the title of this is innovation, because you cannot go out and say in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, say, hey, let's innovate something. So it does not happen that way, right? Innovation happens that you face challenges, you see that you have some problem to be solved, and then how do you solve it? You think about it, you form a team. That's again come back to the theme of team building, because to be a leader, I always say you'll have to be a good listener. So that is the main part of a leadership. So if you are leading an effort to develop something, so you have to be a good listener. You listen to ideas, and then talk to people, and then the new ideas come, right? That you actually talk about this, and that's why it is so important to talk around to people who are not really necessarily working in your area of expertise, because you can get ideas from others, and that's how innovation happen. And that is the key to success, that you have to innovate. You have to actually find what is innovation. Innovation is that you have to find a solution for some problem that we see. And that kind of innovation is actually, I tell that it is not that it is happening only in space or in other industries. It's happening everyday life. If you are passionate about cooking, you go to your kitchen and you see that you are trying to make some good meal and it doesn't work. It happens to all of us, right? And then what do? You try to find out. So I tell that, all of us, my definition of scientist is very different than many others. I say all of you, everyone is a scientist, because we are trying to figure out how things work.
Correct.
And that's way, that is innovation. You'll have to become, make it a part of your everyday life. And that's when, good things will happen. That's my personal belief.
I completely agree, and I remember. I think it's a quote from Henry Ford that failure gives you opportunity to begin again with more intelligence. So, and that's where that habit of innovation starts with time. So this is very interesting. The discussion we had so far. So I also read in some of the news articles. I know you are an avid world traveler. There was a time in my life where I used to see Gautam more than I see my parents, and many conferences, many meetings. So you would have met people from very diverse backgrounds, different countries. I also heard you were in. There was a news about that there might be you might be involved with some terahertz chip in Chukryan mission, going with Indian Space Agency. So is there a collaboration of different space agencies and type of work you do, like for example ISRO, NASA, ESA? How does that all ecosystem works?
So it is very important. In the today's world, space is very expensive business if you think about it, right? So if you are not collaborating with other, organizations, so like as I said, teamwork not only in your organization, teamwork in a global scale. So if you have to think that ESA, NASA, ISRO, all of us will have to come together, and then something big can happen. So that is happening. If you look around, that is happening in a daily basis, regular basis, because we all understand that that is the future. And not only these different government space agencies, even the private entities as well. We know the SpaceX and Blue Origin, all these people are making big strides, and that makes us all very happy and hopeful, because that's the way to go. Missions are big, too expensive, billions of dollars. So what happens in this kind of mission, that we ask for contributions from other countries. So like ISRO, as you mentioned, Venus mission, they actually ask for contributions from other countries of instrument contribution. It's not that you cannot give money to ISRO, we cannot take money from any other places, but what you do, you open it up that, okay, we are having a mission to some place to answer some of these science questions. So do you want to contribute an instrument so that the instrument can fly on our mission? You get that data and you disperse that information to everyone else. So that is the model. And that is the model for future. That is the current model as well. So you'll see more and more of this kind of collaborative efforts going on.
So Gautam, what is your take? From this, I want to kind of move towards now what has been happening recently around us. So two major things have happened in past couple of weeks. First, history was created when SpaceX launched astronaut first time, using Falcon, and it has been amazing the way Elon Musk has taken over this entire vision, and he has demonstrated for the first time commercialization of launch vehicle in space segment. So how do you see this public-private partnership model going forward? And also at the same time, what are the opportunities it brings for young people?
So yeah, absolutely, very true. That again, this is very important. As I said, that we are so happy that private entities, not only SpaceX. If you look around, there are many other private companies. They have invested big way, and they have made big strides. Like Blue Origin, they have a New Shepard capsule, crew capsule they have developed, and as well as yeah, yes, and SpaceX Dragon capsule. So there are many progresses have been made over the last decade or so in this area, and that is the future. Because if you look around, if you want to work in the space industry, because when the commercial entities come in, so we can offload from NASA, all these different space agencies, they can offload some of this work to them, because the company, they have some, they develop technology, they make big strides. Also, they'll have to make some profit out of that. So they have other motivations as well. For us, if we can get or offload some of these work to those companies, then we can focus more on the science aspect of it, right? Because this agency's main aim is to do science. And so that's why in future, I'm so glad, because more opportunities for work for the students who are working on right now. So you'll get more opportunities to come in, because there have been limited opportunities because only there are few space agencies around the world who are hiring in at that rate. So more companies coming, more future jobs, and that is great for all of us.
I agree, and I mean that's also an opportunity for students, who are studying right now, so that they can work hard in the area they are really passionate about, and then go out. In the end, it's a market, and you have to be strong enough so that people you attract them, and you get good jobs, and then you can contribute in various different disciplines. So we have so many questions going on Facebook Live right now. We are watching them, and I'm monitoring them. So what I would like to do, I will pass it to Aisha. Aisha can ask her questions, and but then I will want to go back to the audience who have been posting a lot of questions and select some of the question and put forward to you, because we are already 40 minutes in the session as of now. So Aisha, please go ahead, and then I will take questions from the audience.
Yeah. So I want to quickly highlight three important things that I noticed from day one, from when I met Gautam. So the first thing is he definitely spoke about how team is important, and out of all the awards that you've got, I happen to see that there's a repetitive team award that you have taken. So when we say that we have got an award, it's different, and when our team gets an award, it's a collective thing. But what was standing out was most of the papers or most of the projects you have done, I've always seen a women co-author, or there is a presence of a young, or whatever, like irrespective of age, there is a presence of a women in the team, irrespective of space being a difficult industry, technology being complicated. So give us some insights of, how much inclusion, diversity are you trying to bring in, and what are, like, how are you trying to do about it or go about it at NASA and otherwise in life?
So this is a very good question, Aisha, that you brought in. In the world, 50% of the people are women, and but we do not see that ratio in our work. We do not see that in the leadership in all around the world, and this is such a shame, because what we found is everyone knows, if you talk to social scientists, that better decisions are made when both men and women are involved. And so I have, as I said, I have four sisters, I have one daughter, so I have grown up around women at home, and I know what their capabilities are there. And again, I want to say one thing very clearly, that I believe very strongly that women can do anything that men can do, even they can do better. So there is absolutely no doubt in my mind about that. And so I have made, conscious effort to make sure that we have women in our team. I hire a lot of, postdocs, and then they became staff here. And not because I hired them, that because they were women. They came to us, they worked with us because they're the best in the world. I have people working with me, and they've been still, our new people are coming in every day. So they are so good if you look around them. So there is no reason not to, have them in. I'm blessed that they have decided to work with me, and so that's very important, and that's the one of the reason I really try that. And all of us should make sure that actually that happens. We'll have to improve this situation.
So, Gautam, there's an interesting question as a follow-up of Aisha, which is a lot of people have been asking this question. I'm watching my phone, in our conversation. So one question which people have is being, because NASA and working for space agencies is usually very restricted. So when you say you hired postdocs or you hired research scientists, can you explain student community at large who is working, who come from diverse background again, not only in US but who are in entire world? What are those paths for, especially the international audience? Because you also came from a different country. What are those main streams people can look into? Like how can I target, and what are those platforms where I can find information. So how does all that works?
So basically, as I said, in our organization, we hire people from all different backgrounds and ethnicity, and from different countries. Because that's why you can see that if you go to any of the NASA centers, you come to our group, I always show a picture of our group, and you'll find people from all over the world in that. So that's why this is we, NASA and all these organizations, they actually take people from. There is a kind of a sense outside that, oh no, if I'm not a US citizen, I won't be able to work there. That is not true. I was not a US citizen when I was hired, and that's happening every single day. So there is a path to that. So we'll have to look around. There are a lot of job openings and a lot of postdoc opportunities. If you are doing your PhD, so you should go to NPP, NASA postdoctoral program, and there that is one of the best way to come to work with us. Because you know that when we have limited number of slots available to offer to people, and everyone, like, we try to get the best people. We are lucky that we actually get a very talented people application pool, but we also understand that no country in the world has the sole this thing of smart people. That is, if you go anywhere in the world, you'll find smart people. I have done, as Tushar, you had asked me this question about, I have traveled around the world quite a bit, and that's one of the main things. When I do is traveling internationally is not easy because your family also suffers, right? So, but I do, because I actually go and meet those people, meet those students, and then when one of the things is that I feel that if I can inspire one single individual to do something, that, and to take up something more than what they're doing, that will be so fulfilling. And that's the reason I go around. And there you find smart people everywhere. I went to Cairo, Egypt, and then people are so smart and so enthusiastic, and they are, dreams in their eyes. There are the twinkle in their eyes if you look at them, and then you feel, yes, you go there, talk to them, and encourage them and inspire them. And that's what I try to do, and that's one of the reason I actually travel around the world as well.
Correct, correct. So one thing is what we missed, the second point which I was trying to mention, because of COVID, a lot of things have changed the way we work. Maybe you can a little bit touch on how you have been working from home. How is that experience? And also at the same time, there is a big worry within everyone that the fundings for education research, academic research, as well as for scientific research, in upcoming years, we might see some kind of cuts in the funding. And at the same time, people are feeling little helpless because job market is doing pretty bad right now. So in such scenario, one is the motivational aspect. Yes, we have to be motivated, keep trying. But what are some tangible things, according to you, people can try out so that they can recover from this phase?
So it's very good, very important. Because if we don't talk about COVID-19, then it will be really shame, because what happened is, just early this year and late last year, our world has completely gone upside down, because it's such a devastating scenario that has happened. This virus, this is not even a live virus. If you think about it, just a strand of RNA can bring the entire world on its knees. So that shows our vulnerability. And I know that job market is really bad right now, because people have been laid off, and then it will take time for them to come back. So as for us, I'll talk a little bit about what we are doing and how we are coping. And then, but again, I can understand the pain and suffering that people are going through. And it is, if I tell you that tomorrow it will be all fine, that is not true. It is not going to be fine tomorrow. But we'll have to be hopeful. We'll have to find a way. And there are ways that will come back. We'll see that, we will. Human beings are so resilient, has been so resilient. We gone through, in 1918, we had this kind of pandemic. But, came back. Here we are today. So it will change. It will happen. But for us, what is happening, we are working from home for last 2.5 months, almost 3 months now. So again, we work in an area where what we term is a touch labor, because we have to touch something. We will build hardwares, right? We'll have to go to the lab. We'll have to build something to send into outer space. So for people like that, if you are working from home, what do you do then, right? So what kind of work you can do? But fortunately for us, that we are not only building some instrument, but we are also thinking about what to do next in future. Big part of NASA is that thinking ahead. There are long-term goals. That we are doing something now, but that will be over. So what do we do next? What is the future? What are we going to do in future? So we have used this time. We are using this time in a way that we can actually think ahead. So we can plan for the future projects. We can run simulations to do, stuff like a lot of things we can get done now. So we are focusing on those areas. However, we are also slowly opening it up, because we'll have to make sure that, safety of the people is paramount in this. You'll find all around the world when people are opening it up. First thing is, how can you make it safe for people, but still get this kind of work done, right? So a lot of work is going on in all organizations across the globe. They're thinking that how can we make sure that when people come back, we still have this physical distancing, people are wearing masks, things will change. One thing is for sure, that one thing that after 9/11, United States changed, the world changed. You all know that. So this is another such an event, that the world that we knew before will completely change post-COVID. So that is going to happen. And as one of the things that what is going to happen, as a student, suppose you are a student, you are looking for a job now, and COVID happened. Then how do you react to this, right? So I always say, when a lot of students, they ask advice. Suppose they're just high schoolers, they want to go to engineering, undergraduate. They ask me what stream I should study. What is the in future? What do you think will you? And all these questions come. I always tell them, don't think about 4 years from now, because people who had joined 4 years before, COVID, they saw something that, oh, everything will be great. I should go for computer engineering. I should go for electrical engineering. I should go for mechanical. I should go for IT. All this kind of they planned. But look at where we are now. So in future, there will be a lot of investments in the area of healthcare. Healthcare industry, so much on technology. If you look around, go to hospital today, go to any modern hospital today. What do you see? Of course, you see doctors, you see nurses, but at the same time, you see all kinds of equipment.
Correct.
And who do you think builds those equipment? All technologists, all these engineers, right? So there will be a job, a lot of demand for the new kind of equipment that can go to in a hospital.
I also read that GPL, right after this COVID thing started, they came up with this initiative and they built a open source ventilator.
That's
Can
right.
you tell something about
Yes, I was going to plan to talk about it. If you think about it, that our role, we build instruments, right? So we have all kinds of engineers available with us. And then there was everywhere around the world, a shortage of ventilators. So what we did, at JPL is the team was formed immediately, and they came up with an idea that we can make a ventilator that is not really for all purposes, but for COVID kind of ventilators. You need a specific kind. And how can you make something with off-the-shelf components and very low cost? Because that was the driver, that we'll have to make something that people, if we give this IP, if we give the blueprint to some companies, they can actually make these ventilators at a very low cost. And in a very short amount of time, we are successful in building that, with testing with hospitals, and then giving this to everyone. If you want, you can take it, build it. It costs less than $3,000 to build it.
Correct.
A ventilator that can go to any hospital, less than $3,000. And if you actually build it some other countries, even cheaper, because the labor cost will be somewhat cheaper. So yeah, that is what we did. And that was, that shows that if you are agile, and if you have ideas, and your heart has to be at the right place, that you actually, we live in a society. We'll have to, whatever we do, we have to make sure that this aspect of it, if you are not thinking about human beings, why we are doing all this?
Correct. I mean, advancing technology for humanity has to be the key focus. So, Gautam, there is one interesting comment I got. We have Anvesha, who is a student of class 10, who is on call right now. She says, I know I am very young, but I got extremely inspired and motivating by your words. I learned teamwork is instrumental in all our lives. Can you please tell us how each of us can become a good team leader and can be a good player in what we do? So I think in
So,
standing, so I really wanted to make sure I asked this question.
So, Nesha, thank you for joining in. Actually, I'll talk a little bit about Nesha. Recently, I got an email from her, a couple of days ago, and she's a class 10 student. She's living in Dubai, and she wrote to me, and I was so motivated, and I was so, elated getting her email, because that's what is all about. The young people, when, they ask questions, they think about all this future, that gives us hope, right? So as I was mentioning, how do you become team leader? How do you become a leader in any aspect of life? As I said, one of the key ingredient, I believe, is to of this you have to listen. Because whenever I'm in a meeting, I speak the least, because I try to understand what people have to say. Because if you let others talk, and if you listen, because most often others are smarter than I am, and then they have so much to contribute. So that's what I do. And go around. I always tell people, go around, form a, with your friends. I go for coffee every day. Now I have friends, Nasser, I don't know whether he has joined here. David Gonzalez is in Europe right now. I have so many, they joined as a postdoc. And also I have people in friends who are young people, but they're from all different, very different background, in the sense, in technology background. So I go for coffee every single day. And over that coffee, we talk about everything, soccer, cricket, you name it. And also sometimes we talk about technology and our problem that we are trying to solve. And there you will find that the people come up with suggestions, and we actually run with that. Sometimes quite a few of our patents came from those coffee table discussions. So that's what we'll have to do. We'll have to actually talk to others. This human to human contact and talking is the best way. I know because of COVID, that is not happening. I'm having a lot of meetings, Zoom meetings, WebEx meetings. But, I really am looking forward to when we'll be able to go back to lab and, talk to face. And that's why, because in those dynamics are different. You are not thinking about something, you go with a one idea, you come up with completely different idea because you talk to someone.
Correct, correct. So yeah, I mean, I can imagine you being in a room with a whiteboard and a marker and people around you, and that kind of conversation just changes the entire dynamics. And one more thing for team leader perspective, Gautam, which I mean, I'm very younger to you, but what I really liked in one of your slides, that your mother once told you that go reach for sky, but keep your feet on the ground. So for being for like being a good human and having that humility with what you achieve in life is also a key factor when you are working in a team, because
Absolutely, absolutely. Tushar, you are so correct. And that way, this is my life philosophy has been that you can, you get, as you do well in your life and you work hard, you get accolades, you get awards. For me, at the end of the day, those things are not that important if you think about it. Yeah, what is more important is to be a good human being, because if we live in this world, I am trying to be good. I don't know how, whether I am successful or not, but that's what always drives me, that human aspect of it, about that, compassion and the empathy. This is so important in today's world specifically, and that's what we should always strive to do, because that is, again, come back to this leadership about listening to others. If you see around the world what is going on, we'll have to listen. We'll have to listen, and we'll have to, the main drive should be to do well for others, to do well for human being. And that's why, as you mentioned, my mother used to always say that, we, of course, we used to dream and we used to do all the stuff. My mother says that, again, yes, I was joining NASA, right? And she said that, yes, you want to touch the sky, great, but keep your feet on the ground. I am trying. And, for a lot of electrical engineers, grounding is very important.
that's a good one. So another important thing, I think a lot of students are asking, and I'm trying to take all the question and summarizing it in a simpler form. Uh, is it really important to be a PhD to work in these kind of areas, in these kind of sectors? So for example, there can be someone from India who can go and work for ISRO right after undergrad, but there might be a lot of students from India who might want to work for NASA. I mean, they can try that. But what I have personally learned, when you for me, I personally, my understanding was that PhD gives you time to work on yourself. It gives you time to build those analytic abilities which you can take to any field you want to go and excel in that particular path. So how important is PhD and trajectory if you want to end up being in one of the very specialized fields like you are in?
So it's a very good question, and it's also very relevant in today's, COVID-19 world, because that's what we are talking about. That you do not need to have a PhD to work in all of these organizations. It's not, because we have people from all kind of educational levels, and we need that. Not everyone needs to be a PhD, and that is true. But I always encourage people that if there is a possibility, if you can afford to go for higher studies, go for it, because that opens your eyes. That actually opens your horizon. If you forget about the economic aspect of it, because economically, if you look around, if you look at statistics, people who have PhDs, they earn much more on average than people who don't have PhDs. So if you're thinking about earning potential, it makes sense. But in general, the reason I actually tell people that to go for higher studies is because, what does you learn? As you were asking, that what do you really learn in a PhD? In a PhD, what you learn is how to solve problems, really. So basically, you get that, you are given a problem which has not been solved yet. That's what the PhD is all about, something new, right? So you start looking into that, where to find information, where to find those tools. That's what you learn in PhD, and how to talk to people and, solve your problems. So this gives you a lot of, that other tool sets, access to tools that you can use in your life. So right now, as I was saying about COVID-19, because what is going to happen is that because the job market will be slow, so you're not going to get hired at the rate that was happening before. So what do? This is a great opportunity. So if this is a huge problem, use that as an opportunity to get the skill sets that you need in when things starts picking up. So this is that's right. So for yourself, so if you go for higher studies, learn something else if you can afford. Of course, some people I know, they will say that, yeah, I cannot do that. I need a job today. I was in that kind of scenario when I graduated from undergraduate, because I needed a job. That's why I actually went to TIFR, worked for a couple of years, then came to my higher studies. That was the reason. I know a lot of people are on that boat. Yes, for you, then you'll have to really look for a job. But if you can afford to wait for 1 or 2 years to get new skills, get go for higher studies, go for masters, go for PhD. My suggestion will be do it, go for it, and do it, and then you'll be much more marketable in that way. Your options will be many more.
So I read this statement, and I always keep this in back of my mind that start wherever you are and whatever you have, and make something out of it, because it's not that we will be only able to excel if we are in the topmost university or topmost institution. The contribution has to be always there, so that with every contribution you will evolve, and eventually that idea of being a leader in your domain, you will establish that over years when you practice. So there will be many hurdles, and all of us face that hurdles in our lives, but we have to be self motivated, as you said. So Gautam, with this, I think we are almost 1 hour into the session now. I would like to there have been a lot of questions regarding antenna research and antenna design, because of course that is an integral part of space. One question is, like, I would want to take it generic. What are key technologies according to you in coming 5 to 10 years, which you will advise someone who is in high school or who is in undergrad who wants to pursue higher studies? What are those key technology you think will be changing the world in coming 10 years?
So one thing I actually tell people when this question that you are asking, what is going to happen in the next 10 years? Uh, I tell my answer is I don't know, to be honest. Because if someone had asked me sitting today, so 20 years ago, someone asked me, that, okay, what do you think is going to happen? There was no smartphone. This just started coming out. It has changed the world. Look at this, the way we work today. In 20 years ago, if someone had asked me, who couldn't have imagined the way things have grown. So I always tell students, particularly who are in high school and also undergraduate level, instead of thinking about what will be the big thing in next 5 years, 10 years, you focus on the basics. Because basics, they don't change. If you think about it, the technology changes, but the underlying basic principles are not going to change. So if you understand the basics very well, if you look at when you're studying physics, when you're studying math, when you're studying chemistry, whatever you are studying, if you understand those basics well, then you can actually change yourself, mold yourself with the changing world, the new technologies world, right? Because as I said, next couple of years, you'll find that the healthcare industry will really have a lot of demand, because of all these things that is happening, in the chemistry world, in the biology world, to kind of get a vaccine, to get new, therapeutics, all, but at the same time, new tools, new technologies to actually build instruments. So you can do all this if you actually understand your basics.
Fundamentals, yeah.
That's my suggestion, because it is difficult for me. I don't have the looking at things I can tell, oh, this is what is going to happen. Great. No, I'll be lying if I tell you that, because I don't know. I can tell you, give something that, okay, these are the things will pan out. But like 5G, 6G, and all this communication, it has always been a big driver in the technology world. Of course, new smartphones will come. 5G is almost here, so you'll have to 6G and beyond. So all those things will be there. But if you understand the basic well, the underlying principle well, then you'll be able to actually learn other things as it come along.
Correct, correct. We have message from Nasir online. He's like good leaders are always positive, and Adrian Tang is saying that always so obnoxiously positive. So I mean,
Yes,
I'm glad.
I talked to Nasser a lot. Again, Nasser, thank you for joining in. Nasser is one of the greatest engineers around the world. You know, he came to JPL and he was my postdoctoral fellow. He worked with me, and then he's a leader in himself. So again, he's very right. You know, he always complains that I'm too positive sometimes, but you know. But I'm eternal optimistic because again, as I said, people like me, if you are not optimistic, if you are not hopeful, then I won't be here where I am, given my background. So yes, that is one of my assets as well, Nasser.
So, Gautam, thank you, for, I think it was a very well diverse discussion. We touched on various subjects. Before, we end up, I would like to give you some time to kind of conclude and also to our audience, because there have been a lot of questions. Of course, we cannot take all the questions right now. You can always go to MTTS page, post your questions there in the comment section, and there are a lot of young professionals who are on our page who reply to a lot of students, so that we can help and make this community a global community. So maybe Gautam have like concluding remarks, and then we would like to go towards the end of the session.
Yes, again, thank you. Again, we have all a short time. I can go for hours. People who know me, they know that I love talking to young people, and we talk about all kinds of, I could not talk at length about technological aspect of all these, the details. And that's why the questions, as you said, a lot of antenna questions and others. You can, as Tushar said, you can post them on mtt.org page, and I will be trying to answering some of them, and other professionals will answer your questions. It is there. But at the end of the day, I want to end with this. Look around, be a global citizen. Be a good human being. If you look around the world, what is going on is very, very important to be, socially aware of, because whatever technology we do, science we do it for human beings. So if we are not really contributing to our society in many respects, then what are you doing? So that is one of the questions that should drive your life. Work hard. Of course, I'm saying obvious things, right? Work hard, because you'll have to really. There is no alternative.
Shortcut, no shortcut.
There is no free lunch. Absolutely, there is no shortcuts. You'll have to work hard. I hear sometimes, particularly in India, a lot of parents say, my son or my daughter is so smart, but doesn't work. As if they are proud about it, that they're smart, but they're doing so well in their classes and in school, but they don't work hard. I always tell them that if they apply to my group, I'm not going to hire them, because it's not about smartness. It's about attitude. It's about your that quality of your life. That every day I wake up in the morning, I never felt that, oh, I'll have to go to work tomorrow. So this is I'm blessed in that way, that I got this opportunity of exciting work environment, where people like David, Nasser, all of them work. So I look forward to meet them every single day. So that way, my message to you is that try to become a good human being, and that should be your primary motivation. And along the way, if you do some good work, fantastic. Thank you.
Only one thing I disagree with Gautam here. You can get free lunch. Gautam bought me a free lunch if you work hard. So
And now you know that he's organizing this. Just was it a free lunch?
so thank you everyone for joining, and please type in your comments, and we will be bringing more of these public lectures in upcoming weeks. We are working, we have been, Gautam is helping us and other senior members from IEEE MTTS to bring some of the best leaders, scientists and engineers across the globe, and we will be having more such live conversation. So with that, thanks for joining, and we will meet you guys probably in upcoming couple of weeks or next month. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, Tushar. You are the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We had a huge set of people who joined, around 2,000 registrations, and We had live participation on Facebook as well as WebEx. So like Tushar said, we're looking forward to come again with a more interesting personality next time. And watch out at mtt.org website as well as our Facebook page for updates.
Thank you, Aisha. Take care.